Washington, D.C., August 26, 2025. Inside the cabinet room of the White House, President Donald Trump escalated his rhetoric on Ukraine, warning Moscow that the United States could unleash what he called an economic war if negotiations to end the conflict remain deadlocked. The remarks came during an hours-long cabinet meeting, unusually open to cameras and reporters, something Trump described as a deliberate break from long-standing tradition. The setting provided the stage for a mix of sharp warnings, blunt commentary and characteristic off-the-cuff remarks that have defined his political style. At the heart of the meeting was Trump's stark threat directed at Moscow. Speaking forcefully, the president drew a line between military escalation and economic pressure. Trump said, "I want to get it to stop, and it will not be a world war, but it will be an economic war. And an economic war is going to be bad, and it's going to be bad for Russia, and I don't want that." Now, I have to also see, because not everybody, Zelensky is not exactly innocent either. The framing was telling. On one hand, Trump ruled out direct military confrontation with Russia, a move that could calm fears of wider escalation. On the other, he signaled readiness to deploy US economic power against Moscow if talks failed. His remark on Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky added another layer of controversy. By stating that Zelensky is not exactly innocent either, Trump suggested skepticism toward Kyiv's conduct in the conflict, a statement likely to stir debate both domestically and abroad. When pressed by a reporter about whether Russia viewed Zelensky as a leader worth signing a peace deal with, Trump dismissed the premise outright. Trump said, "It doesn't matter what they say. Steve can answer, but I can answer too. It doesn't matter what they say. Everybody's posturing. It's all bullshit. OK, everybody's posturing. Steve, do you have a different answer?" Steve Witkoff, one of Trump's close confidants, was heard agreeing off camera. "I agree with you, sir." This blunt dismissal underscored Trump's long-standing view of international diplomacy as a theatre of positioning and leverage rather than trust or goodwill. His language, sharp and unfiltered, revealed his deep skepticism of formal diplomatic statements, framing them as tactical rather than genuine. The session itself was notable for its format. Trump broke with decades of precedent by allowing journalists prolonged access into the cabinet meeting, turning what was traditionally a closed-door exercise into a semi-public forum. Trump said, "This has never been done before. First of all, a cabinet meeting was sacred. You'd never let the fake news media in. But the fake news media isn't all fake. A lot of it is, but it's not all. I think it's a great thing. Maybe it's going to be done in the future. I hope it's going to be done." For Trump, the move doubled as both a transparency gesture and a jab at his frequent adversaries in the press. By reframing the event as open and unprecedented, he aimed to signal confidence in his administration's decision-making while simultaneously controlling the narrative. In a lighter but politically significant aside, Trump lavished praise on his Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, describing him as a natural fit for the role. He told Rubio directly, "Marco has been really, I think you're born for this job. I don't think you should ever run for another office. I really don't think you should, really. You're so good at this. He is so good and everybody likes him." Everybody likes him. But everybody, much more importantly than like, I think you would say, is respect. Such comments reflected both Trump's reliance on Rubio in navigating foreign policy and his tendency to personalize politics, often equating effectiveness with loyalty and admiration. But the meeting also shifted to less flattering assessments of figures within the US financial establishment. Trump openly criticized Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook, raising concerns about her suitability for the role. Trump said, "She seems to have had an infraction, and she can't have an infraction, and especially that infraction because she's in charge of, if you think about it, mortgages. And we need people that are 100% above board, and it doesn't seem like she was." He hinted strongly at her replacement, discussing potential successors with characteristic openness. Trump said, "We have some very good people for that position, and I think we have some very good people. We're down to, I think I maybe in my own mind have somebody that I like, but I deal with Scott Bessent and I deal with Howard Lutnick, and we're dealing with a lot of people actually that are going to be involved in that decision ultimately. It's a very important decision, as we see. I got a bad recommendation when I went with Jerome Powell, too late. He's too late. His nickname is Too Late." The jab at former Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, whom Trump derisively nicknamed Too Late, highlighted his enduring frustration with central bank leadership. The meeting unfolded at a moment of global uncertainty. Ukraine's war remained stalemated, Western unity faced strains, and Washington grappled with questions about its financial stability and monetary policy direction. Trump's remarks, therefore, resonated beyond the walls of the cabinet room. His threat of economic war was both a warning to Russia and a signal to allies. The US would not commit troops to Ukraine, but would wield its economic might if negotiations collapsed. By casting doubt on Zelensky's innocence, Trump also recalibrated the diplomatic narrative. Rather than portraying Kyiv purely as a victim, he implied complexity and possible fault on both sides. The comments, though controversial, echoed his past willingness to challenge established bipartisan narratives on Ukraine. As is often the case with Trump, the cabinet meeting blurred the line between governance and performance. His decision to allow cameras inside transformed what could have been a routine policy session into a stage for political theatre. The combination of fiery threats, dismissive language, personal praise, and institutional criticism illustrated his governing style: unpredictable, media-savvy, and heavily personality-driven. For his supporters, such transparency is a sign of authenticity, a leader unafraid to speak bluntly and reveal internal debates. For critics, it is further evidence of impulsive leadership that risks undermining diplomatic credibility. Trump's declaration that it will not be a world war, but it will be an economic war, set the tone of the day. A stark warning to Russia, paired with an implicit reassurance to Americans wary of deeper military entanglement. His additional swipe at Zelensky complicated the diplomatic picture, ensuring the remarks would echo across capitals in both Europe and beyond. By mixing praise, ridicule, blunt threats, and theatrical openness, the president once again ensured that his cabinet meeting would make headlines. Whether his warnings shift Moscow's calculus or strain relations with Kyiv remains to be seen. What is clear is that Trump, true to form, delivered his message in the language he favours most: unfiltered, combative, and designed to dominate the global conversation.